So, mindsight is this incredible ability to see without our physical eyes. This is just like you and I are seeing right now. It's that clear, it's that real time. And that's, and you'll hear people talk about, I have my real time vision. And it's just amazing. Science just starting to try to figure this out. There's so little literature. There's documented proof of people doing this sporadically, off and on, over the last 100 or so years, mostly in like India. But we're just now really starting to put it back into play, and it's just amazing. It's going to change the world for non-sighted people.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I'm so excited to introduce you to Pat. She's a dear friend. She is a medium, a remote viewer, a teacher who now works with MindSight, which is an expanded perception of vision. It includes a practice that allows people, even those who have either lost their physical sight or the ability to see, to perceive the world without using their eyes. Her work touches upon consciousness, healing, and all the untapped potential that is within us all. So I am just so excited to get her here, to ask her some questions, to allow her to provide some information about the work that she's doing and all that's being unveiled. So please welcome Pat to this episode. Thank you so much, Pat, for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to share this information with you on my experiences. So, thank you so much for inviting me.
So, for those listeners who are meeting you for the first time, how would you describe it to someone who has never heard of this work before?
Yeah, so mindsight is this incredible ability to see without our physical eyes. And so so when I first heard about it, I thought, well, maybe it's third eye for those of us, that are in mediumship. We talk about our third eye and we know what it looks like when we see things in our third eye. This is not third eye stuff. This is not remote viewing, which remote viewing is where you cast your consciousness somewhere else and you pick up details and you can see different things. This is not like that at all. This is just like you and I are seeing right now. It's that clear, it's that real time. And that's, and you'll hear people talk about, I have my real time vision. And it's just amazing. Science is just starting to try to figure this out. There's so little literature. There's documented proof of people doing this sporadically, off and on, over the last 100 or so years, mostly in like India. But we're just now really starting to put it back into play, and it's just amazing. It's going to change the world for non-sighted people.
So incredible. It's mind blowing, really. I mean,
It
when I
is.
first read about it, part of it, I got the book that you recommended to read upon it because I was so interested. And my first perception was that you are seeing it like we see mediumship, an internal vision, right? Like of
Right.
a form or of a feeling or a color. But what you're saying is that you're seeing, like, really seeing.
Yes, just like you and I, as sighted people, are seeing each other. Yes, and you can do this online. Most of our practices, post training, are online, so the computer doesn't have any bearing on whether you can see or not. It's just amazing, and it just continues to grow.
I'm really interested in learning how you got into this in the first place. What drew you into it? What was your first experience with it? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So at being a medium, we open ourselves up to information that spans many topics, and we grow our community. Our mediumship community is just so loving, and we just really feel like a tribe, and that we just kind of would do almost anything to help one another. And I first learned about this through our mutual friend Trish. She had sent me something on it, and I guess it just wasn't the right time, and it kind of went over my head. And we know that she has vision problems and is facing eventual blindness, probably. And so I was on a mission to try to find some way to help her. And so I'm Googling and I found the video of Nicola Farmer in the UK with her little kids that are running around, her little students running around, kicking the soccer ball. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, what the heck is this? How are they doing that? So I started digging into it and trying to find someone who would teach it. And most of the places at that time, this was like a year and a half ago, most of the people at that time, there were very few, they were in other countries and they only taught children. So I just kept digging and I found Rob Freeman in Canada, in Ontario, Canada, and signed up for his 8-day immersive seminar. And I called my sister, who's also a medium, and said, we got to go do this. And I explained it to her. And so we went and did the training. So that's how I found out about it and had no idea how it would change my life.
Wow. I definitely want to ask you more about how it changed your perception. But before we go into that, for those who haven't watched the video, which I have recently watched of the kids, can
Yes.
you give us a little review of what was going on in that video with because I remember they were fully masked and they were playing
Mhm.
soccer?
Yes, yes. And it's so amazing. I found myself wondering, how is that even possible? So in in the video that is online, and that's Nicola Farmer, and she has the ICU.com in Canada. And so you can go to YouTube and find that video. But the kids, they start out talking to the kids, and the kids learn differently, but they learn so fast. And they bring their inner light in. And in one part of the video, they're reading books, and I'm still so perplexed. How is that even possible? Just little kids like 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'm thinking, wow. And then they're outside playing, kicking the soccer ball around, and they're fully masked. And even the videographer was a little perplexed as to what he was seeing and how is this even possible. So they handed him one of the masks, which is like this. And I don't know if you can see, but they have like these deep cutouts for your eyes. And so this is what they wear, and you cannot see any light through this at all. I don't have a flashlight here, but this is plastic, just like a notebook, and this is just foam to cushion around your face. And so he looked through that, and he confirmed I cannot see anything, and then handed it back to one of the children, and they just continued on. So that was amazing. And then I have my own personal experience with a little girl who just learned instantly like that. So,
What do you think children have in as an advantage over, let's say, grown-ups, and how
yes.
quickly they learn and how available they are to this kind of teaching? Can you talk a little bit on that?
Yes, it is so amazing to see a child adapt to something new. They are so amazing because they have not been conditioned by society to accept that certain things aren't possible. They watch their cartoons and people are flying and just all kinds of wonderful things on their cartoons, and they believe that they truly do believe that everything is possible. And my personal experience with that is that there's a little girl in my life, in my circle of family and friends, who is just barely 7. And she is with us for our holiday dinners. And I went to her house at Thanksgiving. And I was talking to the family about making things stick to the walls, coins and whatnot. And I can send you some pictures of that. And I was talking to her 18-year-old brother who was looking at me like, yeah, this woman's crazy. And the little girl reached into my hand and picked up some coins out of my hand and just started sticking them to the wall. And they're just sticking there, just like nothing. And so she's like, see, I can do it. And the brother just like, kind of went like this, like, what the heck am I seeing? So now he's learning how to do this. But kids just don't understand that they can't. So they do. You tell
It,
them they can do it, they do it.
exactly. It's that suspension of disbelief. So, for example, let's say me as an adult comes to you and says, okay, Pat, I'm really interested in being able to see without my physical eyes. What would
Yes.
be, for example, one of the first steps towards me being able to do so?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And I'm glad you asked. So some of the criteria is that a person has to be willing to work through their long-held beliefs. And so you just kind of have to talk to them about, what is your stand on, certain things like being able to do things that other people say that you can't. How do you feel when people say, "Oh, you can't do that"? So we talk to them about that. We also try to make sure that there's no drug or alcohol or untreated mental health issues there because of course all that complicates everything, right? And so we want a person to succeed. So we try to make sure that they're in the best possible situation to do that. So yeah, so it's really, and I do a lot of work about suspending my long held beliefs. Still, and I've been doing this for over a year now.
That's incredible. And when you first started experimenting, when you said you went to this 8-day retreat,
Mhm.
what do you think changed for you once you were able to realize what is really possible?
Yeah, so that again is another good question. So I thought, being a medium, I thought I know how to work outside of my brain. I just go inward and I'll figure this stuff out. So I read the book and I couldn't make it happen. And I was like, what am I missing? And so, and all this while I'm waiting to go to the seminar, right? And so I went and seeing other people do it in person convinced me I can do this. If they can do this and they're just like me, I can do this. So I think on the probably fourth or fifth day, I had a little window open, and that little window changed my life. It was the size of a dried green pea, and I could see color. And if I got it just right, I could read the little letter on the piece of paper that I had in front of me. And my life has just never been the same since.
Okay, mind blown. I need you to explain to me what do you mean by little window? Because I've heard people talk about this window, and I'm
Oh,
like, what is
sure.
this window?
So I'll use my mask as a description. Of course, this Mindfold is the brand that most of us like to start out with. Eventually, you just move to whatever blackout mask. So what happens is our brain tries to fill in what it knows should be there, right? So the brain, needs to be in pretty good working order. I'm a great grandmother. And there it wasn't but just a few years ago that they thought only children could learn this. So I'm a great grandmother, and I know people older than me that are learning this as well, even my sister. Um, so what'll happen is you put the mask on, and then you get yourself into a good lighting situation, preferably the outdoor light, and your brain sees that it's all blacked off, but your eyes are open. So your brain is saying, I should be able to see something. I know my eyes are open. I should be able to see. So your brain goes to work. And as long as you're not resisting and saying, see, I knew I couldn't do this, or, something negative towards yourself like that, and you just work with it, eventually you you start getting like these little flashes. It's like when you're outside on a starry night and you see the twinkling lights in the sky. It's just like that. And then pretty soon and they kind of blink off and on, and then eventually one stays. And your eyes still think they're in charge. So your eyes go wherever you're placing your intention or your attention. And so they still think they're seeing, but if you talk to this light and just really allow yourself to open up, this little light will get larger and larger. And when it got to the point to where I could see something through it, I was just mind blown. So that's what a window is. So they start out the tiniest little thing. Now, for some people, they put on a mask and they just open right up. Like the whole thing is a big window. For other people, it takes a little longer. And I'm one of those people. I'm on the scenic route, but I'm getting there.
That's amazing. So okay, so when you have the mask, you say there is a little window that when this little window opens, is it just like seeing with your physical eyes?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's where doubt comes in. And I will tell you, doubt is a stalker. It will stalk you down and destroy everything you're trying to do. So you can never let doubt kick in. You have to keep it at bay, just like with mediumship. Am I making this up? How would I know that? All those things that we say to ourselves. So when those little windows start coming open, you can't say to yourself, maybe it's coming from somewhere else. You just have to believe. And one way that you can really get yourself to believe is when you work with it and get it to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I, at this time, have a couple of pretty good sized windows, kind of like right here. And then I have at least 100 little windows around them. So it started, a little over a year ago with that teeny tiny little window.
So with these little windows, let's say once you have the mask on, someone can
Mhm.
place an object in
Yes.
front of you and you are able to then detect what that
Yes.
object is, their color, whatever, their shape. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that's where the training comes in. We do intuitive work in the beginning to kind of get the brain used to saying, okay, I can pick up things that are outside of my normal knowingness, if that's a word. And so you start building that belief system through your intuition. And meantime, you're working on trying to get the windows open. And once the windows are open, people can hand you literally anything. I was at a training seminar in November, just before Thanksgiving, where I was teaching for Rob Freeman at his Vision Without Eyes Orlando seminar. And somebody, so everybody lined up and they came up and they were handing me things and they wanted me to tell them what it was. And one guy came up with a bag of bread and I'm like reading the bread and I flipped it over and I'm reading the ingredients and he's like, yeah, you can see. So it's fun.
No words come out of me. It's just it's insane, incredible. And also, what does this mean then for the world, especially like in a world where unfortunately, there are people that lose their physical sight. So, what are the consequences of this work? What do you see happening with
Yeah.
this knowing now?
Yeah. So your question just gave me chills and fellow mediums will know what that means. I just got full body chills. So what that means is that the world is on the cusp of changing. The Psy Games, and we can double back and talk about that. The Psy Games gave us a platform to get this technology, this human technology out there. And since that time, people, scientists, educators, the autistic community, so many important communities are embracing this and they want to know more. So science is starting to understand that this is real and that this needs to be looked into further. What it does for the future of humanity is gives people who are either going to lose their sight or have lost their sight a new chance. It wasn't that long ago, in my lifetime, going back to when I was a teenager and knew of men, losing limbs in the Vietnam War. They would come home, you know, uh, missing limbs, and they were given a wheelchair and a pair of crutches and basically said, sorry about your loss. And fast forward now, when somebody loses a limb, they're like, here, we're going to get you set up with a wheelchair and some crutches, but we're also going to move you towards prosthetics. And so this is going to level the playing field for the blind because they will be able to renew their sight in a different way. If the eyes stop working, we just use a different part of the brain. And that's why the science behind this is so important.
I mean, it's just the ways in which this can expand and help, and not only people who are losing their sight, which would or have lost already their sight, but even any human living this experience to understand what our minds are really capable of. It has so many deep impacts in regards to neuroscience and what we are really capable of. It sort of breaks through all these programs that we've been taught since children, like you said about the coin, like, oh, putting a coin against the wall, it's going to just drop, to really allow us to expand in that way. It's great. I feel really excited for the potential in this field. So, what would you like to see happen so that this can reach a wider audience? Because maybe right now only a selected few know about this potential or this work.
Yes, and thank you for asking that question. So, my goal in life, my path, as I have come to realize, is to work with veterans who are either losing their sight or have lost their sight. Um, I I am working with one blind veteran through Rob Freeman. He has one, and I am fortunate enough to get to work with her while I get situated where I can start doing that. So I'm not trying to find financial gain. It is truly in my heart to do this. My grandmother was blind, went blind from diabetes. I had a close call in my 50s where my retinas started trying to detach. And so this is just, it's very personal for me. But, I just feel like our veterans gave us so much. Like, I never had to worry about would I be safe if I went to sleep. And so if I can do this for a veteran who's lost their sight, like that's nothing compared to what they've done for me. So yeah, getting this out there is super important.
The work that you're doing with Rob Freeman, does it also include people that are in other fields? What's it been like the reach of this Vision Without Eyes?
It's amazing because this is touching and affecting people from all walks of life. We have uh, we learned from the telepathy tapes that the autistic community
Mhm.
is very capable of many untold abilities. So we find that mothers of autistic children are drawn to this. Mediums are drawn to this because they're like, well, I've been doing, you know, work that involves expanded knowledge and energy, and energy workers are drawn to this. And then, doctors are starting to come into this, psychologists, just you name it. There a lot of retired people
I would
are coming
imagine
into it.
too that even say medical professionals,
Mhm.
because in a sense, to me, what it sounds like, it's a bit like an X-ray machine, right? To be able to see beyond what your brain, your
Mhm.
ego recognizes as possible. So if I am
Yes.
connecting with someone on a deeper level, just like we do when we're doing mediumship or a psychic reading, this opens up, as you said, this window of opportunity to really be able to even help others see things that maybe currently they can't see within themselves. So the healing potential feels gigantic.
It really is. And, my sister has a medical background. She was an X-ray technician. So, when she opened up and got her sight, the first thing she saw, when she looked at her hand, she didn't see her hand like this. She saw the hand without flesh and tendons. She saw the bones because that's what her brain was trained to see, right? And that was startling for me. But I mean, think about that, where maybe you have somebody at the school that right away can just look at it and tell a child whether their arm is broke or not. Think about the possibilities of people attending a large concert and being able to see whether somebody has a weapon or something under their clothing. I mean, the possibilities are just limitless. I mean, I could at this time I can put 9 layers of stuff over my eyes and still pick up color. So I'm not to the point to where I can see objects yet, but and there's some pretty serious layers of stuff. So I'll start with eye patches, and and then I'll put on a mask, and then I'll put 2 sheets of cardstock paper over the mask, and then I'll put on a sheet of brass, that's brass foil, aluminum foil, like out of the kitchen, copper foil, a, a sheet of leather. That's some pretty heavy leather. That's
Yeah.
probably 16th of an inch. Another mask and just whatever else I can get my hands on. And I can go up to 9 layers. I could go more, but I did this the other night, ran out of things to put over me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if you want to, no pressure at all, but I would love
yeah,
for you to at some point give a demonstration if it's
sure.
even
Yeah,
possible. I'm not even sure how we
absolutely.
would do that. But for
Yeah.
people who are listening or seeing this for the first time, I think it would be
Yes,
interesting to show the potentiality around this. Because
absolutely.
I was definitely blown away the first time I saw someone from Rob Freeman's. I believe I saw it on his YouTube, and I'll definitely
Uh-huh.
link some of the videos here as well. I was definitely like, what did I just see? You know?
Yes, yes. Now, in May, Rob is holding a month-long seminar. The first week is for sighted and blind people, and then for the next 3 weeks, it's just extensive training for the blind people. And I'm fortunate enough to have been invited to go and help train for that. So I'm so excited about that. So I would love to see this one day be the standard of care for medical care, where you're losing your sight or you've lost your sight or whatever. So we're going to get you started with some Braille, and here's a cane, and here's a list of resources that you and your family can work with. But we're also going to give you your sight back. Um, I know people, and I can put you in touch with these people who have no physical eyes. Their eyes were removed surgically due to disease, and they are now starting to see. So it's not just a matter of the mind convincing the eyes to work again. It is truly seeing from a different part of the body.
Wow. I just keep saying wow because I don't even know how to
That every day my life
react
is
to
a
the
big wow.
yeah.
Yes. And that's outside of the in-person training that I'm so fortunate to be a part of. And there are days that I'm just like I'm sitting here wiping my eyes, like to see a person with no physical eyes get 7 answers correct in a row. And language is not a barrier because you can get the earpods that translate. So, we work with a guy in Spain, and just, wherever they are, it's just so amazing.
Another question comes to mind when you speak about these people that do not have physical eyes. So,
Mhm.
were they born with that condition? Was that something that they lost? And if so, if they never had sight for the whole life, how do they even identify, let's say, what red is or green or a triangular shape? Is it, can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. So, for a lot of people, they've lost their sight during their lifetime, so they know that an orange really is orange, and they know that an apple can be red or green or various shades of whatever, and that a grape can be purple or green. But to a person that's never had sight, what does green look like? What does red look like? How do you even teach that? It's not like you can put something in their hand and say, okay, this is aqua. That doesn't work. So, so there is a lot of work that has to be done to help them understand what red is. And I can only imagine what it must be like to see red for the first time and to say, oh, wow, that's red. So one of the people, and I don't want to talk too much for other people, but for two of the people that don't have physical eyes, one had a childhood cancer, some kind of cancer in the eyes, and they did radiation treatment on the eyes, and they told the parents he was 4 at the time, so he remembers it. And they told the parents, he'll lose his sight. We just don't know how soon. And so he thought, okay, I mean, what does that mean to a 4-year-old, right? And he woke up one day with no sight, but he knew his parents would be so upset that he pretended that he had sight. At 4 years old, you can pretend very well at 4 years old. So I don't know how he pulled it off, but he pulled it off for a couple of weeks before I guess the parents figured it out. But at a later point, his eyes had to then be removed because they were not only not working, but then they had some kind of problems from the radiation. And so he's now learning to see. And so, imagine how thrilling that is. I don't know if his parents are still, on the earth in physical form or not, but imagine what that would be like for the parents, and this man's probably, I'm going to guess, in his 40s maybe. And then for the other for the lady that I know that has a situation, she had glaucoma at a very early age. And I think when she was 2, they took one eye out, and maybe at 3, they took the other eye out. I believe that's the case with her. And she's in her 30s or 40s now. So it's been a long time since she's been able to see, but she's getting her vision through this work. So it's amazing.
I mean, just the amount of hope it probably gives someone because our eyesight is such a treasured ability. We use it all the time. It's an everyday thing you use to do
Yes.
your daily tasks and to
Yes.
feel the hopelessness of someone or a doctor or whatever saying like, hey, you're going to lose your sight. And to have the knowing that although I may lose my physical sight, and there is a sadness to that because there's an attachment there, that there's something else that can be gained from this pain, from this loss. Just like,
Yes.
when you encounter mediumship after losing someone dear to you, you understand, like, okay, I lost this person and I definitely miss them and their physicality in
Yes.
my life. But now I know that I can connect with them on an energetic level. And that
Yes.
itself gives you a little reprise from the suffering.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, you miss them in their physical form, but you know that you can still connect with them. And I connect with my father on a daily basis, and he's been gone for over a decade. He helps me fix my car and things around the house. So, and we mediums take that for granted. But yeah, so there is a blind man that has been blind. I think I think he was born blind, and he is highly educated. He talks about playing baseball as a child, and I don't even know how you do that, but they do teach the blind children how to play baseball. And he talks about, for blind people going into this, you really have to be comfortable with your blindness. Like, you can't be using this as an escape. And I thought those were very wise words. He said, that a blind person has to be a good candidate. They need to be okay with being blind. Like, I'm fine, I'm whole, I know who I am, I can navigate. But wow, wouldn't it be awesome to see a strawberry ice cream cone melting down my hand instead of just feeling it, something along those lines.
It's just fascinating. It's beautiful. It's such an amazing gift, to be able to open this up more and to show the world that there's more possibilities than we first thought.
Yes,
And as we evolve in science and technology, this is just another way of us evolving our soul to understand, yes, we are whole without
yes.
certain, even with certain physical limitations. And yet there's just more to be unfolded here.
Absolutely. So I'm very excited that I have a couple of friends that are an extension of the Monroe Institute in Virginia, and they have invited me to come down in April and have my brain mapped while my windows are opening. So I'm very excited about that because I want to see. I want to see what's happening in my brain, what's lighting up. So,
Yeah.
that's how we just stitch all these little bits of information together.
I believe they have done that with mediums before as well, where they, map their brain waves while they're doing a reading or connecting or remote viewing. The other
Yes.
question that I had, two other questions in retrospect to what we already talked about. Can you explain to those who are familiar with what remote viewing is? What is the difference between mind sight and remote viewing?
Oh, yes, I love that question. So for those who do remote viewing, it's a process. First off, it is something that Ingo Swan and some other people started many years ago, working with the government, and then the CIA became involved, and there was a project called Stargate. And these people would go to work every day, and their job was to go into meditation and send their awareness to a location that was known only by an 8-digit number. It wasn't a coordinate in a field. It wasn't anything. It was actually training to be a remote spy, is actually what it was. And other countries still use this, and I'm sure the United States does too, because it's so amazing. But these guys would spend weeks sending their awareness out to this location that was unknown to them. They had never been there, didn't know what was going on, and they were trying to pick up elements of information that they could piece together and draw a picture of what it might look like. So if you can imagine being a spy and trying to figure out maybe what somebody is doing, like, you can see things from satellite, but what are they doing inside the building, right? So that's what they were doing. So remote viewing is really just sending your awareness to someplace halfway around the world or down the street or to the grocery store to check a price, you know, just sending your awareness somewhere. And mind sight is different in that it's real time and you're actually seeing your physical environment. Now you can send your and we do this often in our training. We'll do a remote viewing and Rob Freeman will have something and he'll hold up his phone and he'll say, okay, at 2:03 o'clock this afternoon, I took a picture of something and I want you all to go into your minds and come to London, Ontario, Canada, and go into my phone and see what it was I took a picture of. And it's amazing that people can do that. And just so it could be anything, that he may have taken a picture of. It could be a snow shovel. It could be a camera. It could be anything, but we just go into our minds and we start like kind of picking up bits of information. So that in itself uses one set of muscles in the brain and this mind sight uses other muscles. And and people will say, well, I'm good with remote viewing. How can I learn this? Can I just like switch and it just does it? And mediums, and I thought this too as a medium, I'm like, I'm a medium, I'll just figure this out. You're using your, we call them muscles in our brain, but it's like just because you're really good at basketball isn't going to make you really good at golf right away. Same muscles, arms, legs, core, but used in a completely different way. So when we think about that, these are all trainable. All of us adults can learn this, and the kids just kind of seem to they just go there, you know.
I love that too because I almost thought the same thing. Like when you're doing mediumship, you're connecting, you're setting out your intention, you're doing all this work to get your vibration really high. And then it just feels like a completely different world. And I've practiced with my son, by the way, who's 10 years old now, and he loves doing this. He's like,
Oh,
can we
wow.
practice today? And for him it's just fun. We can get it
Yes.
all wrong sometimes, but when we get that one right, it's just like,
Yes.
yeah, there's a celebration. And so I feel like there's such an impact to also connection and to the
Yes.
possibilities and to expose our children and the younger people that are coming up now to know how incredibly powerful they are. We live in a
Yes.
world where I feel a lot of young people, I'm a mom of 4 children that are in their younger years, and there's still a lot of anxiety and this feeling of powerlessness. And things like mindsight, I think, bring back that inner power, that recognition that we're so much more than we appear to be.
Yes, absolutely. And so first off, how is your son doing with this? Does he have windows that are open? Does he believe that he can do this? Where is
He
he?
believes that he can do it. I just don't know if I'm a great teacher.
Take him out in the sunshine with his mask. Well, take him out in the sunshine, put his mask on him, make sure that he's safe and he's not, like if he kind of loses his bearings, he's not going to fall and hurt himself. But yeah, take him out, get him in the sunlight and have him look in the direction of the sun and have him tell you if anything is happening. And because that's kind of how it starts.
Pat, you had mentioned the side games before. Can you please expand on what those games are?
So Hakim Isler, you might recognize that name. He was on Naked and Afraid a couple of times. He was a special ops guy in the military. He has martial arts gym, and he's an amazing, amazing individual. And it's funny to hear him tell the story, and I would love to. I can give you his information and see if he's, available for you to interview. But he was at the seminar this past November in Orlando, and we got to hear him talk about how he got his calling. And, as a calling, those of us that have had a calling, when you get it. It's like you can say no, but they're just going to keep knocking, keep knocking, And he said the universe told him that, it was time. He had to do the side game. So he called up his people in the world that know things, and started saying, can you come be a a guest speaker? I want to do this thing. And they're like, oh, thank God somebody's going to do this. This is so long overdue. So he had this vision of putting together a competition of 5 different psi abilities, and they are precognition, knowing that something's going to happen before it happens, mind sight, dowsing, remote viewing, and telekinesis. And so then he set up this website, and I don't remember exactly how I found. I think I found out about it in one of Rob's seminars, and I right away was on it. I wanted to know. I was just going to go and see what this was about. It was the inaugural year. This 2025 was the first year ever. And it's sort of like a mental Olympics. So, you think of like a chess championship, and all the chess people are there and they're watching, and some are doing, and some are competing, and everybody's in awe. And that's the way these side games are. It was held in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it was a 3.5-ish day event. And there were sky watchers, there were UFO discussions, there were all things sci. There wasn't a section on mediumship, because it was more of a let me see you do it so that I can understand that you can do it. Where mediumship is sort of, it's a softer skill where only the reader and the medium, I mean the medium and the sitter understand if there really is a connection there. So he was focusing on things that you could prove to a crowd of people. So we went, and like I say, I was just going to go as a spectator, but I wound up being on a team, Rob Freeman's team, and we took first place. And we were so excited. It was just like, we were so excited. So we're going back again this year. And, now the competition will be more intense. People have really worked on their mind sight, dowsing, remote viewing. It was so the recordings of all of that are available online. If you just do a Google search on YouTube videos for Psy Games, you'll see a lot of stuff. But there was some really great discussions that were held there. There were discussions all day long in 3 different rooms. People like Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell was there. Tom Collins was there. I mean, I don't want to try to name the list because I'll forget, but some really impressive people were there. And it was just, it was amazing.
That sounds like such a fully engaging event, because I've myself been very interested in people who can move things with their mind. Telekinesis is the correct
Yes.
word.
Yes. Yep.
And I've been fascinated by it. I think what this opens up is that, again, we just have so much untapped potential.
Yes.
Were you able to witness, for example, someone doing telekinesis during this event?
Yes, absolutely. So they called us contestants, percepts, as short for perceptionalists, and there was about 15 of us, and they had us off to the side, and so we were watching what was going on stage. And there's this device called the Egley wheel, which I don't have mine with me, but it's a little device that has some electronics hooked up to it to that you can record your results. And basically, what you're doing is you're just making this wheel turn with your mind. And so the contestants would be told, first off, they each one had like a little cubby that they were working in, and there was a camera shining in on it so that we could see they weren't moving it with their hands, they weren't blowing on it, nothing of that sort. And so they would be instructed to make it turn this way, and then stop it and make it turn that way, and then make it go the other way as fast as you can, and then make it stop. So it wasn't just a matter of making it move, it was making it move at your will based on the commands that you were given. So yes, it was amazing. And I definitely have a love for telekinesis.
You also mentioned that scientific interest has increased.
Yes.
because of the last side games. What does that bring forward with more studies being done around this? What excites you about the
Yes. So
scientific field being interested in all this?
yes. So that is again an amazing question that needs to be asked. So when we think about the scientific community, there are a couple of different groups. There are the groups that are setting out to prove that it's not possible. They're the people who, just really want to dig in and catch somebody cheating, right? And okay, and they're very much needed because people need, all of us need to know whether we're being taken for a ride or not, right? And then there are the people who are like, I've seen this with my own eyes. I'm going to figure out how this is working, and I'm going to, put all the information together so that we can utilize this natural skill. You think of, energy healers and things like that, and just using those skills to help a person heal their own body. Your body rejuvenates. So why are we rejuvenating the same damaged tissue? There's just a lot of things that make this something that needs to be done. So when we think about the scientific community, we know that the naysayers are doing their due diligence to try to prove, you know, what's real and what's not. And so they have a very important role. And the scientific community that's trying to help us understand how this works has a role that will move us forward because funding will come forward. Companies that are philanthropists who want to see this, maybe they have a blind child or a blind spouse or a parent that lost their vision or whatever, and they'll want to see this put into action, just like the prosthetics that we now give people when they lose a limb. And I think about our medical world. We're regrowing organs, 3D printing ears. So something that we could do so organically like this is truly got a lot of potential.
Yeah, and it reminds me of like the 4 minute mile. Before that was able to be done, people thought it was impossible. And then one guy did it, and then like others came very quickly after him. And it's just
Absolutely.
that seeing is believing scenario where you're like, oh, I see Pat doing this. So I wanna do it. I wanna at least try.
Yes,
Suspend
yes.
my own disbelief
Yes,
and give it a go. Yeah.
and that is one of the things that is brought up during the training is the 4 minute mile. Until the 4 minute mile, nobody, like, everybody swore it couldn't be done. And now it's like 4 minute mile, hold my water bottle, you know, I'm going to go show what I can do. So a lot of people know Dahlia Burgoyne. She right now is like the most incredible mindset person out there. And she and I were at that training in Ontario, Canada together. We learned. She was there when my mind site opened up. I was there when her mind site opened up. She opened up very quickly and has become really a phenomenon. And she's out in Utah. I'm on the East Coast. But we both know that there's so much potential and that literally anybody can learn how to do this. It's just a matter of believing that you can and being, it helps to be in the in-person seminars because as we know, like with mediumship or anything else, you feel that energy. Imagine yourself at a game, your child's soccer game, and all the parents are cheering and the kids feel that, and that energy is just propelling things forward. And it's the same way in these group trainings. And then you go home, but it doesn't end there. Like the work really begins there because now you're at home, you're by yourself with your own energy, and you need to work to keep it going. So yeah, so good.
I'm so glad you answered that because one of my follow up questions was going to be for those who are listening who would be interested in starting to develop this skill. And would you say that this is a skill just like anything
Yes.
else that you learn to develop and work on?
Yes, it's a skill just like keyboarding, just like cooking, driving. It's you don't go for a week and you're an expert at it. You go for a week and you learn how to do it, and then you come home and develop from there. So it's a journey. I don't think there's going to be a destination because we just don't know what's possible. We just have no ideas. Me and my 8 layers of stuff, and Dahlia, she'll put on 2 layers of eye patches, and you know, it's and two or three masks, 5 layers, and
I saw an interview with her. She's incredible.
she
And
is.
she was reading the book covers that this guy was
Yes.
putting in front of her with like a double mask or something. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And we learned to do that at our seminar. We learned to read. So, it's easier if you start out with, like letters. Like I have some letter cards here and I can show you, whenever you're ready for a demonstration,
Yeah,
I
let's
can
do
show
it
you.
now if you don't
Okay. All
mind.
right.
Let's do
So
it.
I'm going to turn on a light because light is important. So I basically just have this little desk lamp, like the little Pixar lamp, and I'm going to shine it at my face. I'm going to put my favorite mask on. So this is my mask that has a lot of Velcro on it because I hang things off of here, right? So I just put the mask on, and a lot of people want the mask to be super tight, but really you want it to be as tight as if you would be holding it up to your eyes, right? So if it's too tight, it's going to distract. So you just want it to be, on there where it's not going to move away. I'll keep talking while I get my windows open a little bit here. It takes a minute. Okay, we're opening now. Okay, so here in front of me, these are my cards.
Before you begin, when you
Yeah.
first put the mask on, it's more of a blackout situation, right?
Yes,
Then
yes.
you
For
start
for
to
me,
uh-huh.
yes, for me it's pitch black. For Dahlia, she says as soon as she puts on a mask, her window's open. So, just different for everybody. I have these cards. This is just the alphabet, big block letters on pieces of black cardstock, right? So they're not in any particular order. I'm just going to reach in here and grab one, and I'll show you what it is. And I will tell you it's the letter S.
Oh, yes, it
Okay.
is.
And so I'll do it again, and I'll tell you that where are we at here? This is the letter O.
Close.
Q. Oh, Q. Okay. I didn't see the tail there. Yep. So here we go with the letter T.
Can you bring it up a little bit?
There we go.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. All right. And let's see what we have here. The letter Z.
Yes.
Now, in Canada, they say Z, so I almost said Z. So that's those, and I can show you more of those and it's quicker if I just like lift up and look around. All right, set those aside. So, do you know what Zener cards are?
No, I don't.
Okay, Zener cards are five different. They're like a playing card, but there's five different shapes. There's a plus sign, a open square, meaning that it's not filled in. Um, there's a plus sign again, plus sign again. Oh, a star. And then there's a water sign too. Let me find, a yellow circle. Sorry, yellow circle and the water sign. Now, if you watch Ryan Davian on his, he'll get like a lockjaw, like he has like a sour taste in his mouth when he picks up one of these intuitively. So, and again, I had met Ryan at the side game. So I'm just going to shuffle the. I'm terrible at shuffling, so I'm trying to shuffle here. I'm going to put my mask back down and just pick one from the middle randomly, just so people know that I'm not rigged, right? It's not rigged. Just out of the middle here. I'm going to take a card. And okay, so there's the back side, and the front side is a plus sign.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to just, shuffle these a little bit. And I'm just going to grab one, show you, and then I'm going to look at, oh, it's plus sign again. All right. So again, we'll just grab one out of the middle. And this is a green star.
Yes.
Okay. We'll do
That's
one
great.
more and then I'll switch to some colors and we'll talk about color. Oh, there's plus sign again.
Yep.
So, yep. So that's another tool that we work with. We we can use either cardstock paper or and you're probably familiar with this. They call them gels, I guess, in your world. And these are really nice because they kind of glow. They kind of blow up the light under here. So I'll show you a little bit about how that works. And you can see my ears are actually underneath these straps. So this is down on my face. So it's not not like I'm peeking out of it. So this one's yellow.
Yep.
Shuffle them around so that I don't lose. I got that blue for sure. Okay, so this one's red.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This one's blue. If
Hmm.
I put these two together, I'm getting green. So I'm going to say this is yellow and blue together.
Yes. Oh,
Okay. And let's see if I put, let's see, there's my red.
yep.
I have there. I can have red and blue together.
Yep.
So that's going to be like it's going to give me a purple, but under my mask, the purple kind of looks gray. So I'm always kind of iffy about
That
that.
was purple for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then these two are going to make one. So,
Yep.
so, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Like I say, I can put. Let me show you this real quick. Let's see if I can get some color under a couple of different. So I'm not going to put eye patches on, but I'm going to put this is the brack. So these
Hmm.
are made with they use them in like nail salons and the dentist's office. These are just those little shields, and I
Yes.
buy I buy the metal and stick it to it and put a ridge around the outside so that it's safe and no one gets cut. So I'm going to put it on over my mask. Okay, so you can see there's the top of my mask and there's the top of my um I don't know if you can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear and see, yeah, that you're completely covered. There's nothing going on. There's no way you would be seeing anything right now.
Okay. Okay, so this looks red. Is this
Yes.
red?
Yes,
Okay.
it is
This is blue.
correct.
Okay. Yellow.
Yes. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. I'm going to
So it
show
just
this
goes,
video to my son. He's going to be blown away.
yeah, so it just goes to show, it's not, people are like, well, they're looking around the mask, they're looking, and that's one of the things that, when we teach people, they're like, well, no, I must be looking under the mask. Well, first off, if I take a side picture, like, look at this, there's no way I'm going to be able to look over this nose and
Hmm.
out that side.
Yep.
That's a big nose. It's just not going to let me see over it. And, like my side is not going to bend and go around. So that's one of the fun parts where we get to help people see that, nice try thinking that you're seeing over your nose or down your eyes. But if you're holding it out here, you would literally have to be
You
like
have to go
this.
up. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
totally.
Yeah, so it's
That's
really fun helping people understand, okay, nice try, but you're not cheating. you
hmm.
So yeah, so I am so excited about your son, and once he figures out how he is doing this, and the two of you working together, and there's just no stopping you. Like it truly changes your life when you think about how you can help people and that you want to help people. This last seminar, I met a woman over in the DC area who works with blind children. And so now she wants to take this to them. She learned it. She's so excited. I met several people who have nonverbal autistic children or grandchildren, and they were so excited to get home. And yeah,
Just knowing the healing potential around this is it's incredible. How long did it take you to get to this point where you can so quickly perceive and see to give people an idea of the time commitment, because I think as
yeah,
humans we always want to know, like, okay, so how long is this going to take me to be able to
yes,
do
yes. And I think that's the part where people really have to decide, am I in this for the long haul, or is this just something I just did parlor tricks for me? So for me, I'm in my fifth year of mediumship, just started my fifth year after having trained that, in that first big group with Suzanne Giesman. And that has been a journey for me. And I'm at a place where I'm very comfortable with my abilities there, but I know that I can always, the longer I work, the better I'll get. And I would say it was probably a good 6 months before I really felt like I was starting to master it. With this, like I say, I went to an immersive seminar where you're practicing it all, all day long. So like starting after breakfast, and then you break for lunch, and then you go to like 5 o'clock. So it's like like a 7 hour day that you're working on the skills. And it's 8 days long. So you come home, most people come home with some size of a window. They have most people, like 98-ish% will come home with that window open. That is just the beginning. So for me, it has been about 15 months, and I train every day. Well, I have to say, I took a couple of days off at Christmas, but I do train every day. Even when I'm at a training session in the evening, I'm in my room training. So I think it's a journey, and I don't know what the upper limits are. Like, I want to see globally, which means be able to see anywhere. And I know that the more I block off my eyes, the more windows open back here. So, do you remember being a kid and just being sure that your mom could see out the back of her head?
Yes. And that was going to be my next question. So
Yes.
you can have windows open back there as well.
You can have windows open on any part of your body. Rob Freeman tells this wonderful story where he's sitting at home, his home there in Canada, and he's, working and practicing, and he could see something, but it was from an angle that just didn't make sense. And so he's down on his hands and knees crawling around, and he realized he had been sitting on his sofa with his feet up on the ottoman, and he was seeing out the bottom of his foot. So, yeah. So we call when you get your windows open, we call that advanced level mind sight, which at some point that might actually have to be, changed to like intermediate level, because we know that we don't know what the limits are. And we know that we can see out of our elbows, out of the back of our head, out of our ears. You have blind spots. So if you think about your peripheral vision, even if Dahlia didn't have a mask on, there's places that she would not be able to see because your eyes can't roll out or backwards any further than a certain point. So you know that something else is going on, but that is something that does happen organically the further you get into this training and when you think about just the name of this. So I like to call it mind sight because that was, I think, the first word that I picked up. I think Sean McNamara calls it mind sight. Rob calls it vision without eyes. Wendy Gallant was there when I was training, and she calls hers sight beyond eyes. Dahlia's group now, I think, is oh gosh, they have even different name. So there's people that call it blind sight, mind sight. Going back a little ways, it was considered extraocular vision, going back to the guy in Mexico who started writing about it, calling it extraocular. It was called dermovision. Because there are retinal cells everywhere in your body, everywhere. Your skin has them. So they just don't know enough to know what part of your body's acting like an eye today.
Yeah. And this brings me to my next question. Um, if you look at telepathy, because as you mentioned, a lot of mothers who have autistic children are turning to mindsight as a
Yeah.
way of maybe healing or helping their children and or even themselves in the process. Do you find a line or a connection between those two things, mindsight and telepathy, for example?
Yes, and I think that comes in the early stages through intuition. We all know, and I think as a society, certain things have been trained out of us and have been relabeled. But like when you think about, you're a mother, and other mothers out there will understand this. When you hear a baby cry, you can be in the grocery store, somebody's baby, or even a toddler or child. You know what kind of cry that is. That's a mad cry. That's a hungry cry. That's a tired cry. That's a I'm frustrated cry. You know that kind of cry. Once you've been a mother and you recognize that in your own child, you know that in other children. So the question is that learned or is that just intuitive? And I would argue that it's intuitive. And intuition is something because you know something, right? Like like you get up, you look at the sky, and you're like, kind of looks like it might rain today. but you haven't heard the weather forecast. You know intuitively that when it looks like that, this could happen. And we had that little moment between us where I was talking about mother seeing out the back of her head, eyes behind her head, and you were going to ask that question. So that was an intuitive moment, right, between us. So it starts with the intuition, and we do train the intuition, and then the telepathy is just sort of like the next step from that. And we know that for those who are mediums, we can liken that to when you first start doing mediumship and you're kind of working with one clair, whichever clair is your strong clair. For me, it was clairaudience. And then the other clairs just kind of come on board. And there are things that you can do to kind of prompt that and special trainings and things that you can immerse yourself in. But it really just kind of over time, if you keep at it, it'll just open up. So, yes, there's definitely through the intuitive part of this, of the training, the telepathy is definitely um, something that happens.
That's incredible. Because it's almost like you're training your brain not only to see beyond your physical eyes, but also to feel, to sense, to know. All those things then also probably start to come online, and you realize that there's maybe even more there,
Yes,
you
yes.
know?
You just connected the dots because that is exactly the way the training begins. You know, you we have people put on a mask and we start handing them things and asking them, what color is this? And the first thing their brain kind of panics and says, how will I know what color this is? My eyes are closed off. I can't see anything. But through your intuition, those things that we've kind of lost by being humanity in the day and age that we live in, we don't have to know. We can turn on the weather and see what the day is going to be like without having to just know. But you know, there are people who are like, oh man, there's a storm coming. I just know it. I feel it in my bones, you know. But we do start out with the intuitive training and we teach people how to see intuitively. They'll get like just a little flash, just like it's almost like a memory moment where something will flash through their awareness and they'll be like, oh, orange. And you'll be like, yes, it's orange. You know, so we start with the intuitive training, and then that encourages the real time window to open.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, because some people are more sensitive, let's say, to temperature. Oh, this feels like a warm color. Maybe that's
Yes.
how they start and before their windows are completely open. Or
Yes.
um I wanted to ask you what the implications are regarding mindset and let's say something like mental health. I know you had mentioned that usually to get into the training you have to be of clear mind,
Mhm.
but in the sense of like there's just so much to be uncovered in this, that how do you see maybe this even impacting someone's mental health regarding their own, let's say, physical limitations in this life?
You know, that's a very good question, and I think that science will eventually help us with that. I think through this, we sort of get a clarity on things. We get First off, our heart grows like three times the size, just like when the Grinch that day and his heart grew three times the size. It just opens up a love for humanity, and you just really want to do something with it, and you want it to be all inclusive. Like the all of us who were at the Psy Games last year, it was a community of 15 people competing against each other and with each other. So we were sitting there cheering on the competition, like, "Oh, you nailed it!" Yeah, it was very unusual for a competitive setting, but I think that there probably are medicinal qualities to this. I mean, if you think about, I think every person on the face of this earth has had moments where they just didn't feel like they fit in. Whatever was going on in that moment, they just felt like, wow, I'm just not vibing with everybody. But there's a place and a time for everybody, right? Every one of us has a niche. Not everybody can be, um, not everybody is cut out to be a math whiz. Not everybody can be Einstein. I'm one of those people. I'll never be an Einstein, no matter how much I study math. It's just not going to happen. But I found my niche. And with my niche, I found my community. So with my community, I have inclusiveness. I have endless resources. And I think with that comes the hope that maybe some of the loneliness and isolation for some folks who maybe haven't felt like they fit in, that they'll find that community. And if nothing else, it kind of will serve as a distraction to say, wow, yeah, I've got my own stuff going on, but holy cow, look at this. So I think it's as big to humanity as when we walked on the moon.
I love that. And I just got chills because I think that's what I encountered when I first started mediumship, just the community of people coming together for you to know that you're not alone, that the ways in which you felt that you didn't belong now make sense, and there are others that have the same kind of interest, and there's such a beautiful, supportive, loving place where you know that if you're having a hard day, you can show up as yourself. And
Yes,
for humans to have that connection is so important, especially in an age where, you know, electronics are taking over and we are on our phones and we are, you know, disconnected in a way from each other. Ha- Having this community feels like a place of belonging.
yes,
Um,
yes,
so I feel that's incredibly powerful, especially also for people that feel like they've already achieved everything maybe in their physical life that they wanted to achieve. They've had the family, they had the kids, they had the job, and what else is there? And now it's
yes.
understanding the potential of your inner life. It's such a
Well,
huge revelation.
it really is. The people that I knew in my corporate life don't know about what I do yet. But um, it's gonna be interesting to see how they take it when I come out, so to speak. So I was in corporate America for a very long time. So I started out just, I grew up in Wyoming, and in Wyoming you're just a rough and tumble person and you learn whatever you can as a trade. So I spent 20 years working as a welder. And then I realized that my body was not going to put up with that as I aged. So I thought, well, I better get an education. So I went to school, started going to college in my 40s, and went through a business, marketing, human resources, all that. Wound up with two master's degrees, and a corporate job that I loved. And then the universe works in our favor even when we think that it doesn't. So at age 59 I lost my job, and they just eliminated my job, and I loved it, so I was really heartbroken over it, and I thought, well, I'll take a few months off and just pull myself together and get back to work. What I found was people don't hire people that close to retirement. The question I got in a lot of interviews was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I'm like, retired. so so there weren't a lot of people that wanted to bring me on for just a few years. And then COVID hit. So I'm like, okay, and we all know that brought the world to a standstill. And at that time I started learning mediumship. And I just didn't know that mediumship, through my connections and my desire to help people in that, would lead me to this. So just a few short years later, I am doing stuff that my corporate friends would have, they'd have been terrified. They'd have probably been hanging crucifixes over my cubicle walls if I had been doing this back then. So, everything has divine timing, and there's a path and a calling, and yes, for people who feel like they've accomplished and done whatever. So I have my business degrees, right? So I go to the University of Sedona, which is also the University of Metaphysics in Sedona, Arizona. I do that online. I'm an ordained minister, and I also just earlier this year achieved my master's in metaphysical science, and I'm now working on my doctorate in metaphysical science. So all that
Wow.
and this too. So
You're a
yeah.
busy
So,
lady. You're a
oh
busy
yeah. I'm
lady.
retired. So, great grandmother in Delaware, who knew?
That's
So
that's awesome. Pat, is there anything that you would like those who are watching this today to understand about this work, the potential of this work, why it would be interesting for them to at least investigate these possibilities. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Oh, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about that. So, just very quickly, the world is in desperate need of a loving environment, and there's just nothing like mediumship, mind sight, expanded awareness, telekinesis, all this stuff from within us that bonds us with other people and makes us reach out and want to know more instead of isolating ourselves. And with that, that tremendous love and that desire, that compulsion to do something for others. So that is one thing. Plus, it's a heck of a lot of fun, and you get to meet some amazing people. So, and just like our holidays will never be the same. At Christmas, we had a very sigh Christmas, and everybody at the table, I had them make little sigh wheels. So everybody's working with their sigh wheels, and they're sticking money and different things to the walls. And I can send you some pictures, but my two grandkids, they stuck phone chargers to the walls, dice, a straw, money, you name it. They're sticking stuff to. I have a penny stuck to my wall that's been there since Christmas. So it's been up there a couple weeks.
I would love to see these pictures. I'm
I
very
will send them to
curious.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
The final thought that I wanted to share here is that, for example, when I became involved with mediumship, I know that it brought me so much joy to know that we're not alone in
Yes.
a world where sometimes it can be quite lonely, to be
Yeah.
honest. I've felt that desperation of loneliness in my own personal life before. And to be able to delve into a field such as mediumship brought me the awareness of how incredibly supported we are. Like you
Yes.
said, you're daily having this communication with your father. I mean, I sense my loved ones very regularly. And I feel like mindsight is just another ability that we are given by whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, benevolent energy that created this whole thing,
Yes.
to allow us to remember how connected we are, not only to ourselves, but to each other.
Absolutely. And that's where I think mediumship was the taxi cab that brought me to where I am. And my strongest clair has always been clairaudience. My grandmother, who went blind she lost her sight to diabetes. I'm not sure what age she was, probably in her 50s, when she lost her sight. And I think she's the one who came calling. She was a Latin teacher. So the first words that I started hearing were in Latin, and I don't speak Latin. So, so it was like, the sitcom where the guy's like, Penny, Penny. My grandmother was like, Patty, Patty. And she wasn't going to give up. And so, I'll be working with my mind sight and I will hear her tell me things. They will tell me, try this, do that. So, to know that not only do I have this loving community here on earth in the physical world, but I have this enormous community of people that are also with me that, we don't normally see, that are also pulling for us. It's just how much better can life get?
Yeah. Do you still fear your physical death?
I do not. Like I am totally okay with knowing that my physical body will break down at some point and will no longer be functional, just like a vehicle. You have to get a new vehicle now and then. So will I reincarnate? Absolutely. I'll be back around for another another rodeo, but I no longer feel fear losing my eyesight because, like I say, this retinal detachment thing that I started experiencing in my 50s. I do not worry about that at all. It's not even a thought, and unless I'm explaining to somebody why I don't fear it. And I also have no fear of death, none whatsoever, because I will just be able to. I tell my grandchildren, you'll know it's me because you'll hear jingle bells and I'm going to drive you crazy. So I will be right here. I'm not, they don't go anywhere and neither will we. So I have no fear.
I
And
love that.
imagine a world if we raised all children to know that. Like these little grandchildren and great grandchildren in my life are going to grow up knowing that they can stick things to the walls and that they can make things move, and that, you know, before they even know that they're not supposed to be able to do that, they're doing it.
I
So
love it.
imagine the world, what a better place it's going to be.
That's beautiful. Is there one final message that you want to leave the listeners with today, Pat?
Learn this stuff. Don't ever stop learning. Dopamine is a wonderful anchoring device, and when you start learning something that you enjoy, it makes it stick, and it keeps your brain healthy, and yeah, and the love grows and builds. So find somebody that you want to train with, and like I say, I work with Rob Freeman. He has the wherewithal to throw these training seminars together, and I just come in and teach and do the part that I love so much. So yeah, reach out and find somebody, and yeah, give it a go.
Thank you so much, Pat, for everything today, for your time, for your information, for your beautiful wisdom. I really
Oh,
appreciate you.
oh, and thank you so much for having me, Alini. It's wonderful seeing you and speaking to your community.